What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So I hope you all were able to go and check out my review of the original Scream film last week. I hope you guys enjoyed that. It's our Road to Scream 7, as I'm calling it, where I'm reviewing each Scream film leading up to the release of Scream 7, of course. So without further ado, we're going to get started talking about Scream 2, and just like before, this is going to be a spoiler-filled review. So like the original Scream, if you haven't seen this yet, go check it out. Go check out the original if you haven't seen that and for some reason want to know my thoughts on the sequel. So go watch both, or at least the sequel, and then come back and let's talk some spoilers. And just right off the bat, this is a worthy follow-up that, in my opinion, is almost as good as the original film. It really finds a cool way to provide some of that clever meta commentary. This time it's focusing more so on the copycat serial killer aspect, as well as the violent effects of media on the youth of today, which I think is really interesting. It does touch a little bit on sequels, but not as much as you might think, especially judging from the tease that Matthew Lillard says at the end of the original film, where he's like, you gotta have a sequel, and they don't actually play into the sequels as much as you expect them to, but it is there. But I do think the idea of them really leaning heavily in toward the effects of violent movies on kids and the youth in general, as well as, again, the copycat serial killer aspect, is an interesting angle to take it, so I'm not too upset with the direction of that. The opening scene where it's Jada Pinkett and her boyfriend, husband, whoever, and they're going to go see Stab, which is basically the Scream movie, but it's based off of the book that Gail Weathers, I believe her name is, the reporter in the first one, the book that she wrote about the whole plot of Scream, basically. It's like they made a movie out of that, and so obviously Ghostface in it. You got these hardcore horror junkie fans, and they're just wreaking havoc. The Jada Pinkett's character, she's not wanting to go see it. She doesn't really do horror movies, but she's convinced by her boyfriend to go, and then everything just becomes mass hysteria. Like, the Ghostface guy starts killing while he kills the couple, and Jada Pinkett's character dies on stage, and like, it's just overall really well done. I'd say it's in some ways maybe even better than the original, but I personally prefer the original opening scene more, just in terms of how creative it was. But that's not to say that this isn't inventive, it's just not quite as iconic. But yeah, it really sets the tone, though, for the rest of the film, lets you know that you're in for something that will be familiar, but also very distinct, which is really cool. Once again, of course, we get Sidney Prescott, or Neve Campbell back, I should say, as Sidney Prescott, and they really do find a way to further her story in a way that feels both meaningful and logical, and I really appreciate that. And it also gives some really strong character arcs for the crew of the original film as well. Kind of talking about Gail earlier, she has a very interesting arc as well, where she's kind of becoming less of a thorn in the side, so to speak, or pain in the butt, however you want to word it, to Sidney Prescott, but she's becoming more of an accomplice almost. She's someone who's actually trying to help her out as you get more into the film, and I think that's an interesting way to take it. As for Dewey, he doesn't get so, it's not that he gets so much of like this big arc or whatever that really furthers him as a character, but he's kind of has a thing for Gail, and he kind of, throughout the film, I guess you could say, almost comes off feeling very like he's very much the foil to Gail, and kind of is what keeping her on the straight path, so to speak. That's the best way I could describe it here. So it's overall just a really good camaraderie and banter between the two. They clearly have a romantic interest in each other, which is a interesting, but, you know, kind of, I guess, decent way to further the story. I wasn't super into it, but it does add an extra layer to the film. Whether or not it fully succeeds is, you know, up for debate, but it is what it is. And then another character that I think is worth pointing out here is Cotton, who, if you guys have forgotten, he is the killer, or who Sidney suspected was the killer of her mother in the original film. He comes back here, and I like his motivation of how he's kind of trying to get Sidney to be like, hey, you know, you literally dragged my name through the mud. I really want us to go live on TV and, you know, make this right. Let's have a conversation and clear my name. And I think that's a really cool way to take it. They do a good job of kind of making him almost seem unstable in a way to where you're kind of like, is he actually, like, you know, is he the Ghostface killer? Is he, you know, like, they do a really good job of kind of throwing you a curveball in his direction. And, you know, obviously at the end of the film, he's revealed to be a good guy, and there's no dirt on him whatsoever. But it is just a really cool, fun way to kind of just drag the audience along, kind of have them second guessing, and then obviously, you know, the big reveal at the end is not who you think it is, but rather it is once again, two killers, Timothy Olyphant as well as Laurie Metcalf, playing respectively Mickey Altieri and Nancy Loomis. They are the ghost faces of this film. I really think that this is like, you know, whereas I loved both of the reveals in the original film, I do think here's a little more 50-50 in my opinion. I thought Nancy Loomis's character was a well done choice that really tied into the original. I love how she's really just a mother trying to get revenge on the murder of her son, Billy Loomis, who was the was one of the Ghostface killers in that original film. It really it really just tied back into the storyline of the first one in a really unique and creative way. But Mickey, I'm not really sure what purpose he had in this movie. I mean, even just throughout the film leading up to the third act, he's only in it for maybe like 20, 25-ish minutes. I barely remembered him at all. Like, he takes off his mask, and I'm having to do a take 2 and take 3 of who even is this guy? And that's not a good sign when you're trying to set him up as more or less kind of the main antagonist of the film. So, yeah, in terms of the Ghostface reveals, I thought one was excellent, one was not so great, but the actors themselves do well, especially, I mean, Timothy Olyphant, he does an amazing job in the role. It's just, I kind of wish they'd given him more development like they did for Stu and Billy in the 1996 film. And then, kind of in terms of just one more thing that I kind of have to nitpick here, I would say that many of the new / side characters, such as Sidney's roommate and such, I just feel like they aren't as memorable or don't have the same sort of charisma or energy of the side characters from the original film. And again, I'm talking about the ones that are newly introduced here that weren't in the first Scream, but they're just not as memorable. They don't really have too much of a unique personality, in my opinion. And there's also a couple leaps of logic that its predecessor didn't have. Again, it's nothing that absolutely kills the film, but it is something that, in my opinion, is definitely worth pointing out. But yeah, overall, that's kind of my thoughts on Scream 2 as a whole. I really love this film. I think it's close to being as good as the original, but not quite. Again, just some of the characters aren't as interesting. One Ghostface reveal didn't feel as earned as it should have, as well as just the fact that there's a couple leaps of logic that just really didn't come together all that well. But overall, guys, I recommend checking it out if you are a Scream fan, or if you love the first film but haven't seen any of the others. In fact, I'll go ahead and give it an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's a great film, just don't expect near perfection like the original had to offer. But that's all I got for today, guys. Let me know in the comments down below, what did you all think of Scream 2? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you kind of a bit indifferent to it? I know this is a film that kind of tends to be divisive in the Scream fandom. Some people love it, some people hate it. So I'm curious to know what you guys think, and so let me just know in the comments down below. And as always, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video, and I'll catch you all later.